Oh, we can't hear you, man.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Are we good? Awesome. See, I told you technology was going to hate me today. It's always been that way. I think it's just Thursdays, or it's not Thursday, it's Wednesday. But anyway, hello. Welcome to Way Too Nee's Music Hangout. This is another special for our Free Press Summerfest this entire week that we've been doing. We are joined with New York City Queens, another Houston local, and I'm so glad because it's Houston, and I love Houston because I'm here in Houston. So, hey guys, how are you guys doing today?
Very well, man. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. I'm enjoying the welcome break from all the rain that we've been getting. So it's quite nice outside, and I wish I was outside rather than here, but that's okay. Why don't you guys go ahead and start and introduce yourselves, and then tell us a little bit about New York City Queens.
Go ahead.
I'm Isaac. I play the drums.
I'm John. I sing and play guitar.
I'm Kitty, and I play the guitar and the synthesizer, and I sing.
I'm Tom, and I play guitar.
Bro, get on there. Get in there.
I'm Danny, and I play bass mostly and guitar.
And New York City Queens is just a 5-piece pop band. We started in the spring of 2011, and we are currently working on our second full-length record.
Awesome. So you guys are playing free. Actually, before we get to Free Press Summerfest, can you tell us about how you got started in music individually? Was it something you guys did growing up, or was it something you found later on in life? Just about how you got started and your inspiration for being in music.
Well, it's different for every one of us. But I started playing music when I was in like 9th grade. I started just like fooling around with friends and started playing bass. And then progressed from there into like wanting to write songs and stuff like that, and then just kind of never stopped, and then here we are, you know. Go ahead.
I've been playing the drums since I was in 4th grade. I got a drum kit when I was in 5th grade, and it's just kind of been going since then. I've played in bands like jazz bands and started rock bands when I was in high school and early college, and then I found New York City Queens a few years ago. So.
I started playing guitar about 8th, 9th grade. My dad got me into music at a really young age. He showed me a bunch of classic rock. And over the years, when I was in middle school, I actually played saxophone. And I really wanted to play guitar, so my dad bought me a guitar, and I've been playing ever since. So I got into it at a young age.
I started playing guitar because my dad had a 12-string guitar that I couldn't play when I was younger. Then started a little side project with Daniela, and kind of started to get serious into playing music then, and then joined New York City Queens. And then I was kind of like a secret guitar player. I never really considered myself a guitar player until probably I joined this band. But I played other instruments growing up, like piano and flute and stuff in school.
I think we all kind of just like fooled around musically when we were younger, and then as we got older, like in high school and college, we started playing more seriously, and then we formed the band around the first EP that we put out in 2011, and then yeah, within months we were playing shows kind of all over Houston, and then we actually played Summerfest in 2012, like we had talked about before, and we were just like, I think a little bit over 6 months old as a band. So since the beginning, we've kind of pursued New York City Queens as like aggressively as we could. We've done some touring since then, and released a couple records.
Awesome. So are you guys all native Houstonians, or are you guys from different places and call Houston home?
Some of us are more spread out, but me and Tom and Kitty actually all grew up in the same suburb of North Houston. We're from Kingwood originally, and then we all are pretty much spend most of our time down here now, except for Tom. And then Danny and Isaac are.
I grew up in the suburbs of DC, and I was born in New Jersey, like northeast.
I was born in Mexico, and my family came to the U.S., and I grew up in Minnesota. And then after I graduated from high school, I moved to Houston just to get away from the cold. And I had some family down here, so it was definitely nice. A nice move.
Awesome. So you guys, like you mentioned earlier, you guys played Free Press in 2012, and that was when you were fairly young band. You're playing the Neptune stage at Sunday at 11:30, I believe, correct?
That is right.
Awesome. I'm glad I remembered that instead of forgetting things like I normally do. But how do you think, when you first found out you were playing Free Press again, what was the first reaction that you guys had?
Excited?
Yeah, we were just like pumped. We were actually on the road. We did a tour of the East Coast. We went up to Providence, Rhode Island, and back in January and February over the course of like 3 weeks. So we were on the road when we got asked, and it had kind of been. I mean, the tour was fantastic, but up to that point, we were. It had been like a rougher time. So like, I think everyone was pretty like excited to get the news that we were, being asked to play. So we've just been like thrilled, And we're getting to play at Neptune stage, like you said, this year, and like just a few bands after us, like Washed Out is playing and Cage the Elephant and stuff. So it's a huge honor for us. I think we're all like ecstatic.
So, like you said, you played 2012 Free Press. How do you think it's grown since then? And I talked about this earlier with some of our hangouts earlier this week, that Free Press is, it's one of those Houston things that you just don't get enough of, and the Houston music scene is a great scene to be a part of, and it's very diverse, but it's also very hidden sometimes because Houston is so large and not many people know about it. But in regards to Free Press, how do you think Free Press has helped to grow the Houston music scene and helped to grow you guys as a band?
Well, I mean, in terms of the Houston music scene, almost, I don't want to say single-handedly because there are so many players in the scene and so many people who like put their all into like promoting shows and just being in a band and like going out and playing multiple times a week. But definitely, Free Press Houston has grown this scene like by leaps and bounds in the last few years with Summerfest. I mean, we're just like, I'm just really thankful that they are still putting on local bands. They're still highlighting local talent when they could just as easily, outsource the talent to these huge national acts, and just giving a band like us, who's still like early in our career, a chance to play the same stage as some of these like bigger national acts is awesome. We can't really thank them enough for the opportunities that they've provided us, and playing at Fitz has always been something that we've loved to do. So yeah, I think they've done a great service for Houston. I think that Free Press Houston, Summerfest is basically like this huge event for Houston, but not just for Houston. It's people are being made aware of it on a national level, So it's attracting a national attention to, like you said, what otherwise might be like an unappreciated scene in some respects, like comparatively to Austin, or Nashville, or like music towns. But in reality, there's just as much music going on here. It's just under the radar,
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and that's what without the risk of saying that Houston has the best music scene, and I think that personally, but I didn't actually say that for anyone that's watching that's from Austin or anything like that, because I don't want you to get mad at me for some reason, but you should be a little envious because Houston is an amazing scene. In regards to your performance on this Sunday coming up, what are you guys most looking forward to? Is there something that can we expect stuff from the new album that's coming out later this year, or how are you guys looking at performance-wise?
Yeah, we've actually been working really hard on fine-tuning our set and introducing elements of our new record live, like using drum machines and synthesizers versus what our older records are more like guitar-heavy, like rock and roll.
And even one song that's not even on any record.
Yeah, we're actually playing a song that's off of an EP that I worked on with a friend of mine, which we've been playing around town. We're really excited about reproducing live. And then, yeah, we'll be playing 3 or 4 songs off our new record. So we're stoked about that, and we've enjoyed one of them that we've never played live before, so it'll be really
Awesome. So, in regards to the new album that's coming out, what can you guys tell us a little bit about it? And like just in general.
well.
Kind of a different
Yeah.
sound.
Well, it's definitely like a departure from anything we've done before, and that's something that we were doing consciously. And we had talked. There were records that were coming out, I guess in 2013 that we were all like particularly fond of. The Delta Spirit self-titled record, Bloom by Beach House. King of Limbs, I think, came out maybe in 2012 or before that. But these are some records that I think kind of all struck a chord with us. We all kind of agreed that that was a really interesting, and these are 3 completely different records, but we took elements, I think, of each one of those bands and kind of decided that we would push our sound more toward using drum machines and synthesizers to kind of express musically something just completely different than we've ever done before. It was just a conscious decision on our part to say, like, well, maybe if we use drum machines and synthesizers and more sparse arrangements instead of so heavy, like we have 3 guitar players in our band, so we are all constantly trying to figure out how to make that work and how to each play off of each other without like playing over each other. And so this was just something arrangement and sequencing wise that lended itself well to what we were, how the things that we wanted to address artistically on the record. So it's definitely like way different than anything we've ever done before, which I'm like super excited about. I feel like with our last record we got a ton of great reception, like locally and from press, and I feel like this record is better than anything we've ever done before. So I'm thrilled to like see how it goes over, you know, especially being.
Awesome. Well, I definitely look forward to hearing it. In regards to putting you talked about the process and using different sounds and using different types of equipment to put this together. So, what were some of the difficulties you had in using, using or creating that different sound that you wanted to create?
Well, I mean, like, I'm a complete novice with synthesis, so I bought my first analog synthesizer to make this record. And that was definitely one of the biggest challenges, was just kind of understanding the machine and making it work for me instead of the other way around, like really figuring out how to make a sound. Because essentially with these machines, you're creating something that's completely original, and you can work off of user patches, like defined patches that the creator of this machine made, but ideally you're really taking what they had and you hone it to something that's completely unique to you. And that's kind of something that's really cool about synthesizers. You can kind of just do anything versus be limited by the sound of an instrument, like out of a box. So that was definitely a challenge.
First 2.
Yeah.
We also did like we took a lot of the guitar parts that were written and recorded, and John did a lot of stuff to those guitar parts editing-wise, and we got a lot of the guitars to sound like synthesizers, and that's something him and I talked about we really wanted to do, because we wanted to like kind of erase the fine line between guitars and synthesizers, so when you're listening to it, you don't really sit there and think, oh, that's a guitar or that's a synthesizer. It just sounds good for the song. And there are some guitar parts that I played and recorded and then heard them back later and almost forgot that was me. So,
yeah, I think that's actually such a good point. Like, that's something that we definitely stressed, was like, even the parts, there are songs that are really guitar heavy, but we did things to the guitars that are just completely like, they're just very unusual in terms of production and stuff like that. Like, we would sequence whole guitar parts and make them very like mechanical, but everything was played, by a person like in a room, and nothing's copied or pasted. It's just basically sequenced like very heavily to sound like a machine or processed, like using like based on one of the guitar tracks. This is something that we did a few times. Was we would double track guitars. So we would record one guitar and then layer the second guitar at the same part, and then pitch correct one, like heavily, to make it sound almost vocoded. And then we would get like a synthesizer-esque tone and it's awesome because I've shown records to friends and family and stuff, and they are saying like, where are the guitars? And there's actually guitars all over the record, but it's just there's that was something that we wanted to do, is really to kind of just make a sonic record, and rather than being kind of put into a box that we have 3 guitar players, a bass player, and a drummer, it's like, let's just do whatever we want and make it sound and full without necessarily being confined to those instruments.
Cool. So that's definitely a unique process, and like I said, I look forward to hearing it. I'm sure a lot of people do too. Touching back to Free Press and doing live performances, can you tell us what the favorite parts are for you guys for each, doing a live performance?
My favorite part is the energy you get from playing a show for a lot of people. Like Summerfest is going to be really exciting because we're playing a big stage with good sound. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, that for me is my favorite part, is because I'm an audio engineer and like I track and produce our records and stuff. So like when we get to play at a venue with like amazing sound, that for me is like, it wouldn't even matter how many people were there. It's really just about like hearing it back the way that you intended it to sound. And I'm really excited to play this Sunday and kind of just hear it back like in an open field, like with everything turned up. You know, it'd be great.
So, in going forward with 2014, what do you guys have? You have the album coming up. What else do you guys have planned? Do you have more tours or more shows coming up after Free Press?
Yeah. We are finishing the record. We have just a tiny bit more of the process left. We're kind of just like fine tuning it. We want it to be like the best it can possibly be, so we're taking our time with it. But as soon as that's done, we will be booking for the fall of 14, and that's when we're thinking that we'll put the record out. And yeah, I think we're mostly just going to be pursuing PRing this record nationally, like getting it the proper press and promoting it in the proper light. Kind of like we feel like it's artistically warranted, that we really see what the potential is of this record. So we want to do it the best way that we possibly can. So to pursue like management, booking, and PR for the record, and then tour pretty extensively off of it for the following few months after the record's released.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll be touring at the end of the year.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to doing it. I hope I get to come to one of your shows, and hopefully, I know you'll probably be in Houston, so definitely I will be able to. Going back to the album a little bit, what were some of your influences in this new album? And you talked briefly about them when I asked you about the process and how you guys were putting it together, but were there certain things that influenced you more than others, and what were there certain inspirations that came to you while in the process of making it?
Yeah, I think the biggest inspiration for me sonically when making the record, for me, like I got into Radiohead when I heard Kid A, and a lot of people I think are more fond of OK Computer, or that's just the record that kind of like got them into Radiohead. But I first got into Radiohead hearing songs like Everything in Its Right Place, and just like I just think they're just the most like haunting, like amazing songs. And they still sound like they're from the future, even though this record is obviously dated now. And that's something that, like, to me, Radiohead is a band that's like 10 years ahead. Where like Tom York seems like, to me, he's like 10 years ahead. He's like he's coming back in time to like give us these records. And if anything, I would like to be like 10 minutes ahead. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like a big inspiration, is just to try and make something that's completely unique to us, while paying homage to these influences, not like biting any style or anything like that. Like really trying to define what it is that makes our sound unique by blending sounds. I mean, like obviously our influences, we love like, or I love like the Strokes, Radiohead, and the Beatles, and we all have such diverse influences. Like Fleetwood Mac, a lot of that three-part harmony stuff stems from stuff that my mom showed me when I was growing up, and that has a lot to do with like the sensibility of the band, the pop sensibility of it. But inspiration definitely Radiohead, Beach House, the Strokes, Delta Spirit. Modern rock bands, I think that in terms of production, are really doing things that make their records like just sonically engaging. They're not just like capturing live performances. They're really, to me, like this. Yeah, St. Vincent. even Kanye West for me personally. But sonically, I feel like these artists are like pushing the envelopes of what people do on recordings. You know, the same way that like the Beatles did with Sgt. Pepper's. Like, they're not sitting, or even Dark Side of the Moon. Like, those are records to me. Like, that's always the record that I'm trying to produce. Is something that's like something that's classic and really weighted and dense and feels like artistically like a statement was made. You know, like you could listen to it as a record. I mean, we basically are in the business of making like concept records. You know, like records that there's a theme to the entire record and a feeling that's pervasive, and not just, we're not putting out singles. You know, like we want to make artistic statements.
I definitely think it's a great thing to do because, like you were speaking of, the recent music nowadays doesn't have that album theme anymore. It's just a bunch of singles put together and, you know, in an album, and it's just singles. So I definitely look forward to hearing. Like I said, definitely look forward to hearing it.
We'll get it over to you as soon as it's done, man. We'd love to get some feedback from you.
Awesome. I would definitely love to hear it. And going back, I know I just keep going back because I keep remembering questions in my head. But New York City Queens, the name of the band. How was that decided upon, and how was that formed? Because that's definitely something interesting, and I'm sure that has a story behind it.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I'll try and condense it as best I can. But basically, we wanted to call the band Pony Boy Curtis, after the lead character in S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders. It was a book that I read in high school, or I guess it's like middle school, but it was required reading in middle school or like high school or something. And that book always, it was like one of the first books I read in school that I like loved. Like I read it over and over again, and became really attached to the characters and the ideas that like life is kind of hard, whether you're on the bad part of the town or the good side of town. So I just love that book. And yeah, Pony Boy was actually the original, and we had every intention of putting out the first EP that we did under that name. And then we looked into it, and basically legally we weren't able to do it because there was another artist that was already touring under that name. And so we had to come up with something different before we put out our EP. And we just tried, I mean, I think I came up with 50 terrible, just horrible band names before we agreed that New York City Queens was the least horrible. And for me, it just sounded like, so I went to a thrift store in Houston, and there was this military fatigue shirt there, and it had all these hand-sewn patches on it. And I was like naturally just like drawn to this shirt, and it looked like someone had really put their love into it. And one of the patches was in pink, and it said New York City Queens. And I thought, like, man, how interesting. Like, either this person was just like really proud of like the borough or the city that they are from, or I thought, how interesting would it be if this is actually like a transgender, like a cross-dresser, like literally just wearing this patch, like put it on there themselves and just kind of saying like, you know, being really proud of it, you know. And I thought either way was really cool, and it just kind of sounded like clique-ish or something, like gang-ish, which is kind of the same feeling as Pony Boy. So yeah, I just saw it in my dirty clothes hamper one day, and it was like, you know, that's what we'll do. You know, what about New York City Queens? And everyone was like, yeah, I don't hate it. And it's like, okay, good.
Awesome. That's definitely a story. I knew there was going to be something behind that, so that's an interesting story for sure. So I know you mentioned touring in the future and all this stuff. In touring and doing live performances, do you guys prefer doing more intimate shows where you have a smaller space, or larger festival spaces?
I think we play smaller spaces often, and we're actually pretty good in a small room.
I guess that's like where we're really comfortable.
I mean, I love playing regardless. You know, like when we play Fits and we're able to pack out upstairs, like there's no better feeling in the world, I feel like. So, and at Summerfest, I mean, I love these kind of things. I always have. So for me, I think it goes either way, but I mean, I think that we excel in bigger venues or just better sounding venues because our sound is so, especially now, it's just very like, it's very dense. Like we have drum machines, live drums, both playing at the same time with synthesizer and backing tracks and 3 guitar players and a bass player. So like in smaller clubs, we've fine-tuned our sound to play in any club around the country because we've toured pretty extensively. But at the same time, I think that the sound has every intention of being perceived as big as it can, you know. So that's kind of, I don't know. I guess both. I love both.
So just playing in general, then.
Yeah, I mean, we just love to, like, we're a touring band, you know. We've toured the East Coast 3 times. We've toured the West Coast once, and I've loved every minute of it, you know. So there's never been a show that I haven't like enjoyed playing. So.
Awesome. So, like I said, you guys would be playing the Neptune stage Sunday at 11:30.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. So if you guys are at Free Press Summerfest, if you're watching, go ahead and go check them out. And there, are there bands that you guys are looking forward to seeing yourselves as well?
I can't wait to see Washed Out. I saw them at Fun Fest, and I can't wait to see them again. They're really good.
Deftones. I love the Deftones.
I'm excited to see Cage the Elephant.
Vampire Weekend.
Vampire Weekend, yeah.
Jack White.
Jack.
Gosh, there's so many. They really killed it this year.
D'Antwerp.
Yeah,
DMX.
DMX.
I want to see DMX.
Miss Lauryn Hill. That'll be really dope. Big Fugees fan.
Awesome. So before I ask my last question, is there anything else that you'd like to add to speak to Free Press or just in general?
Yeah, I mean, just a huge thank you from us to the guys at Free Press Houston for not only putting this whole thing together and continuing to do like this massive service to the Houston music scene, but also just thinking of us and putting us on. And yeah, if you are at the festival on Sunday, come see us at 11:30 a.m. We'll be on the Neptune stage right before Sylvan Esso and Washed Out.
Awesome. So, as my last question, as I always ask everyone that I interview, can you name one interesting thing about yourself individually that most people wouldn't know, and can be something weird, completely out there, or it could be your favorite color? I don't really care. Just something interesting about yourselves.
I eat fast food almost every single day, and I've been doing that for like 10 years, which is terrible, and I don't recommend it. But that's my thing.
I'm really entertained by good commercials.
Oh, I used to be
I love
figure
tacos.
skater. Everyone weird.
Say it louder. That was like nothing.
What?
I used to be a competitive figure skater.
I didn't know that.
What about you, John?
I am secretly a Starfleet commander. I
I used to be a nationally ranked BMX racer.
Awesome. So, okay, I have questions about each one of those things. First, to the commercials. Have you seen the Tina Fey commercial with the American Express where she slides the card the wrong way? And does that really bother you? Because it bothers me.
I've not seen it, but I will watch it.
Okay. She slides the card the wrong way, and it's completely absurd. But that's just Okay.
Those are the good ones.
Yeah.
That sounds weird.
So with figure skating, do you have any plans to incorporate that into your performances?
Yeah, triple axles.
Actually, we've been doing a little bit of negotiating for Queens on Ice. It's going to be a national tour at the end of 2014, so we might see you out there.
Awesome, that definitely sounds interesting. And to our Starfleet commander, I've actually been watching Star Trek Voyager this past couple of weeks. So, what's your favorite Star Trek series?
I honestly like the original series. I really like the new movies too. I think J.J. Abrams is doing a really cool job with the new movies, and I like Zachary Quinto as Spock. I think he plays an awesome Spock. So I like all of them. I never really got into Next Generation, but the original series I have to say is my favorite.
Awesome. And with the BMX again, same thing. Is that going to be? Are you going to do another like a BMX tour? That's going to be interesting. That's kind of a weird question, but.
Yeah, I don't think that's...
We're currently in negotiations for a small BMX run following Queens on Ice at the end of 2014.
Both very interesting tours.
Yeah.
So, okay, for fast food, which is, it's not, I don't like fast food much, but what's your favorite fast food place?
Maybe, probably Whataburger.
That's a lie.
Why?
Taco Bell.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Whataburger.
Yeah,
I'm
I'd say
gonna
Whataburger.
go Whataburger. Or
Taco Bell.
yeah, Taco. See,
Frank's
Taco
Pizza.
Bell. I acknowledge that Taco Bell is dog food. I didn't want to say that because I don't want to encourage other people to eat it.
But he does like it.
It's good slime.
Cheesy gordita crunch.
Yeah.
All the way.
Awesome. Well, that's definitely interesting. Thank you guys for sharing that. It's interesting things, and that's why I like asking that question. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. Thank you guys for joining me again, and I wish you the best at Sunday's performance. I know you guys will do great, and it's going to be an amazing day. I think. Hopefully, I don't think it's supposed to be raining that day, so it's going to be a nice day out there, and it'll be, yeah. We'll keep our fingers crossed. It'll be an amazing day anyway, rain or shine. Thank you again for joining me. We'll talk to you guys soon after, and we'll chat again.
All right.
Once the free press is up, and then once your album comes out, I definitely want. And like I said, I'm looking forward to hearing it. And I wish you all the best again. And I thank you again for joining me. For anyone that's watching, we'll be having earlier today we were supposed to have the Tauntauns on. We weren't able to. We're going to go ahead and reschedule it. I think we're rescheduling it to Friday. I'll have more info about that. Tomorrow we're talking to the wrestlers, and then you can watch all of our previous interviews with Blushes and the Caldwell Band. And I'm supposed to be remembering one more. No, there's only two. Okay, I'm good. But those are also up on the website, so you guys can check those out. And I'll leave a link in the description and all that other stuff. But that should be it for me. If you're at Free Press, go check these bands out and go check out more information. Go follow them on Facebook and Twitter, and check out their older albums as well, because of that they all sound amazing. For Way Too Indie, this has been Man Chalwa. Thank you for joining us. Thank you guys for taking the time out to join me as well.
Take it easy.
Awesome. Why don't you guys go ahead and start and introduce yourselves, and then tell us a little bit about New York City Queens.
Go ahead.
I'm Isaac. I play the drums.
I'm John. I sing and play guitar.
I'm Kitty, and I play the guitar and the synthesizer, and I sing.
I'm Tom, and I play guitar.
Go. Get on there. Get in there.
I'm Danny, and I play bass mostly and guitar.
And New York City Queens is just a 5-piece pop band. We started in the spring of 2011, and we are currently working on our second full-length record.
Awesome. So you guys are playing free. Actually, before we get to Free Press Summerfest, can you tell us about how you got started in music individually?
Oh, we can't hear you, man.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Are we good? Awesome. See, I told you technology was going to hate me today. It's always been that way. I think it's just Thursdays, or it's not Thursday, it's Wednesday. But anyway, hello. Welcome to Way Too Indie's Music Hangout. This is another special for our Free Press Summerfest this entire week that we've been doing. We are joined with New York City Queens, another Houston local, and I'm so glad because it's Houston, and I love Houston because I'm here in Houston. So, hey guys, how are you guys doing today?
Very well, man. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. I'm enjoying the welcome break from all the rain that we've been getting. So it's quite nice outside, and I wish I was outside rather than here, but that's okay.
Growing up like piano and flute and stuff in school.
I think we all kind of just like fooled around musically when we were younger, and then as we got older, like in high school and college, we started playing more seriously, and then we formed the band around the first EP that we put out in 2011, and then within months we were playing shows kind of all over Houston, and then we actually played Summerfest in 2012, like we had talked about before, and we were just like I think a little bit over 6 months old as a band. So since the beginning, we've kind of pursued New York City Queens as like aggressively as we could. We've done some touring since then and released a couple records.
Awesome. So are you guys all native Houstonians, or are you guys from different places in culturally? Was it something you guys did growing up, or was it something you found later on in life? Just about how you got started and your inspiration for being in music.
Well, it's different for every one of us. But I started playing music when I was in like 9th grade. I started just like fooling around with friends and started playing bass, and then progressed from there into like wanting to write songs and stuff like that, and then just kind of never stopped, and then here we are. Go ahead.
I've been playing the drums since I was in 4th grade. I got a drum kit when I was in 5th grade, and it's just kind of been going since then. I've played in bands like jazz bands and started rock bands when I was in high school and early college, and then I found New York City Queens a few years ago. So.
I started playing guitar about 8th, 9th grade. My dad got me into music at a really young age. He showed me a bunch of classic rock. And over the years, when I was in middle school, I actually played saxophone. And I really wanted to play guitar, so my dad bought me a guitar, and I've been playing ever since. So I got into it at a young age.
I started playing guitar because my dad had a 12-string guitar that I couldn't play when I was younger. Then joined or started a little side project with Daniela, and kind of started to get serious into playing music then, and then joined New York City Queens. And then
I was kind of like a secret guitar player. I never really considered myself a guitar player until probably I joined this band. But I played other instruments